Back in 2023, I was watching a lot of self-improvement content, and I think it must have been an Iman Gaji video that I watched, but it was somebody talking about the $10,000 a month goal. And as soon as I heard about it, it's like the neurons started firing in my brain, and I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. So I ended up setting this big goal for myself, and every day I'll just focus on getting to 10k a month, just hyping myself up, thinking how fucking sick it would be to finally make some money and not be poor. But of course, after a few months, nothing changed. I was still in my mum's house, I was still broke as shit, and now I started doubting whether this shit was actually going to work. But the worst part was, I deleted Snapchat and Instagram and all of social media, but I was still getting FOMO from my friends or my friends' friends, just like talking about how much fun they're having at uni, whether it was like partying or drinking or girls or whatever. And I remember it feeling so unfair because I would lock myself away in my room. I'd be working on this business, trying so hard, while everybody else was just going out being a degenerate, and they were having fun, while I was just miserable. And it felt like shit. It felt like shit, but I basically had nothing else to do. So I just powered through it. I told myself, like, fuck it, just keep working. Eventually it's going to pay off. So for now, just get to 10k, get to 10k, get to 10k, every single day. But of course, the more I did that, the more I started to lose hope. I could never feel proud of myself because every single day, no matter what I did, I could never achieve my goal. Having a big goal like 10k a month wasn't the problem. I still liked the idea of making more money, but the problem, my problem at least, was the fact that I was over-obsessing over the big picture. It felt like I was meant to climb this massive fucking mountain that I set for myself, but every single day I would wake up at the bottom of the mountain and just complain about the fact that I had such a long way to go. And on top of that, no matter how much I thought I was working, no matter how much I thought I was like making progress, I was too zoomed out and it didn't look like I was making any progress at all. It didn't look like I was moving. So eventually my enthusiasm started to run out, and instead of chasing this goal and being happy, anytime that I worked towards it, it just became more and more painful. It felt pointless, and if you imagine yourself trying to climb a mountain, you're cold, you're hungry, you're tired, and on the map, it doesn't even look like you're moving forward, then of course your body's just going to want to quit. It's not going to want to keep going because it doesn't feel like it's worth it. So I eventually stopped working. I fell into all the bad habits, started playing games or just binge watching bullshit, and it was one of the worst ruts of my life. I remember feeling very guilty at the time because I had to watch my parents and my family. They were going hard, like they were working hard on their shit, going to the 9 to 5s, doing whatever. But of course, like, you're working a 9 to 5, you're not going to love the job, it's still going to be painful, it's still suffering, so they're coming home, they're tired, they're complaining their backs hurt. And every time I saw them, I knew I failed them. I dropped out of uni, and I wanted to pursue my dreams. I wanted to start this business, and I already had this big goal, right? I wanted to make money for myself, but also because I wanted to help my parents. But now I was in a position where I wasn't doing anything, and I failed them. I think for me especially, having a big goal makes me feel like I'm better than everybody else. I get a sense of like, yeah, I'm more ambitious, and so I'm entitled to win over everybody else. And it's a nice feeling. It's nice to like stroke your ego. But the thing is, if you only obsess over the big picture, eventually, instead of motivating you, this big goal is just going to drag you down and remind you every single day that you're a failure who hasn't achieved it. If you haven't got like some sort of goalpost where you can measure progress, every single day it's just going to be the same thing of like, you're not at the goal, you're not at the goal, and you're still not at the goal. If you never achieve your goal, then you're not going to build any momentum for yourself, and everything that you try afterwards is just going to be harder and harder and harder. Instead of looking at this big mountain and thinking like, oh fuck, I've got to go from here all the way up the mountain and like achieve this goal. If you zoom in and start looking at the smaller milestones that you could set for yourself, instead of going from the bottom to the top, go from the bottom to like the first river on the mountain, to like the next tree on the mountain, to the next rock. If you could start setting little milestones for yourself, like daily quests that are actually achievable, then you'll start to be able to make momentum and make things easier rather than harder. If I asked you to count to 100, you wouldn't go 0, 100. You'd go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, right? And so I don't understand why so many of us at such a young age try and go up from our goals from 0 to 100. We spend so much time trying to do the impossible when it's so much clearer that you just need to not lower your goals, but create milestones or daily quests which help you start counting. After a few months of eating shit and basically going in and out of ruts, just feeling bad about myself, I eventually found a mentor, and the number one business lesson that he taught me, or just like life lesson in general, I guess, was exactly this: focusing on the daily actions, the daily things that you can control, and setting them as like the daily quest of the day. And so instead of obsessing over the 10k a month big mountain I had to climb, I'd obsess over the actions that I could control. So in that business back then, when I was running it, all I had to do was send messages to people on LinkedIn and then try and get them on a call. Beforehand, I'd always focus on like, okay, well, I need to make 10k a month, so I'm going to send some messages and I see what happens. But it was such a simple little change that I made. Instead of trying to look at it as a big picture, I just focused on the day. Just today, I'm going to send 20 messages, and then tomorrow, I'm going to try send 21. Just that little mindset, just those little tiny daily quests that I could set for myself, meant that I could track every day how much progress I was making. And as long as I made those 20 messages, I knew that I was moving forward. And of course, as soon as I started doing that, I didn't feel like a failure anymore. It felt like I was accomplishing something, and it felt like I was making progress. The best thing about it was just this like pride, having something to hold to yourself and say like, I actually did something today. Maybe I'm not at 10k a month yet, but I'm actually working towards it, and I know that I'm working towards it because I have this thing that I'm controlling. I think it was like 3 or 4 months after that I got my first ever client from that business, and about a year later after that, I was finally making like 2 grand a month. And that was such a sick feeling because the only thing that I changed was that I focused on daily quests instead of the big quest or big goal that I wanted in my life. When you become somebody who wins every single day, your mindset starts to change. And like I said, like, you're not thinking about this failure of person of like, oh, I'm not a 10k a month, I'm such a shit person. You just become the type of guy who just completes everything that he sets out for himself every single day. And the nice thing is, you don't have to look at these big fucking things anymore. You can just focus on the little things, and the little things move you forward. The weird thing is, I already did this in my life, but I must have forgotten the lesson and just like not realized it. But back when I was kickboxing, so a few years before this, every single day I came into the gym with this like daily quest of just train hard as fuck. Don't think about like wanting to be a world champion or like being the best kickboxer in the gym. Just today, train hard as fuck. That's your only daily quest, and that's all you have to achieve. And of course, if you've got that mindset, then every single day you're just going to push yourself as hard as possible. You're going to build a streak of days that you've achieved your goal, which if it's just based on actions and something you can control, you can basically achieve it every single day. And you build momentum. You build momentum, you build skills. And then for me, my coach randomly came up to me after like 3 or 4 months of training there. He asked me if I wanted to fight. I said yes. And then like 2 months later, I won my first fight. I didn't have the goal of coming into that gym to win a fight. I didn't have this goal of like wanting to prove myself or anything. All I focused on was just training hard as fuck, and everything else was a byproduct of my like work ethic. I think I found that anytime I'm struggling with motivation or consistency, it's always because I've zoomed out way too much. I'm focusing on this like big picture goal more than my daily quests, and I stopped building momentum for myself. I stopped building momentum. I fall down this like negative spiral of like, oh, it's been so long since I've achieved my goal, oh, I'm just so far away from all this, and things start to feel hopeless. But I think I did this with this channel recently. I was looking at like making more money or helping even more people, and those were like the big goals I wanted to achieve. But I had to pull myself back and just focus on the daily quests. Just write your scripts, just do a recording session whenever you can. Just focus on the good habits and build some momentum, stack some wins, and make sure your life gets easier, not harder. And I think it's going pretty well. So try and come up with some sort of daily quest that you could follow, something that you could track, that you could progress in, and that you could stay consistent with every single day. Make sure it pushes you, but make sure it's still achievable. When you're climbing a mountain, don't, like, still obviously you're aiming for the top of the mountain, But you're not gonna do that in one day if it's like fucking Mount Everest or some shit. They always like measure it based on like, let's get to base camp 1, then let's get to base camp 2, then base camp 3, and then eventually we're gonna get to the top. What are your milestones? What are your daily quests that you can track? They'll build some momentum and build some motivation for you. Because I think that's just a secret to stay motivated. I think the people who are most successful, they can track and make more progress in one day than we do.